Pardon me. Hey, well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to YouTube. Today we are doing the Let's Go Live on YouTube on the church's channel, True Oceanside. I'm super excited that you guys are here with me, hanging out on the tubes and getting away from the Facebooks today. Just trying to do something different, seeing how this works for everybody. All right, so let's see if we can do that. Trying to do that. Oh, well, here I've already discovered one thing. I can't see your comments when I am looking on the YouTubes just yet. There we go. There's a little craziness there. So this morning we're going to talk about this idea of party crashers, emotional party crashers, to say the least. There are people in all of our lives who are toxic people. All right, they're just some seriously toxic people. And before I dig into this a little bit more, I just got to let you know that my name is Mike. I'm the pastor at Oceanside First Presbyterian Church, and I'm here to offer an encouragement every day of the week, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. And I'm here for you to help you have the best possible day you possibly can have. And so that's kind of why I'm here. We started this at the early parts of this pandemic when I was noticing that people were feeling a bit down and depressed, and so I've been here since then, for almost I would say 5.5 months now of encouraging folks every single day, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. And I'd love for you to find me here and share. Ooh, hey, Penny, share with me your stories as we dig into this, as we go into this. And so today's our first day on YouTube. We're trying to use a new, trying to do this in a new way. And we're just figuring it out because Facebook, we figured that out. Now I got to figure out YouTube for professional reasons. But let's go back to this idea of dealing with toxic people, talking about toxic people. We all have people in our lives that are toxic. There's absolutely no doubt in my life, in your life, there's no doubt about it that we all have toxic people. And this is one of the things that's interesting, is that what is toxic to you may not be toxic to me. Yeah. So I might be able to get along perfectly well with someone that you just can't stand. And you might be able to get along with someone that literally not just drives me up the wall, but makes me want to retreat into my shell. You know what I mean? That's kind of how this works. And so as we're talking about toxic people, remember that, or dealing with toxic people in our lives, remember that we all have different toxicities, right? That some things are okay for you but are not okay for me, and some things are okay for me and are not okay for you. The first thing you have to do is recognize that you may have a toxic person in your life, someone that after you have an interaction with them, after you've kind of listened to what they said, you kind of feel wounded. You have this sense of wow, I feel like all the joy has been taken out of me. And that toxic person or that toxic comment that they left in your life makes it so you can't concentrate anymore because you just keep going back to it over and over again. So you have this repetitive thought pattern, and sometimes it interrupts your sleep. And sometimes you even feel shame because you don't think you handled the situation as the best you possibly could. When in reality, all that happened was a toxic person came in and they influenced you with their toxicity. They made you emotionally ill, and it's taken you a few days to sometimes a few weeks to get better. Having toxic people in your life, again, people that are toxic to you, is no fun. They often have a power that feels like they have power over you. You're not sure how to engage them when they're in the room. You feel your smallest when they're around. And you can't seem to communicate well to them, even though you're trying to communicate to them that they are hurting you. They just don't get it. They just absolutely don't get it. And every conversation you have with them seems just to go in circles and circles and circles because they don't see how they could possibly be toxic to you. And the reality is, I think for all of us, is that we are either surrounded by a few toxic people, or the scarier part, is there are moments when we are toxic people to other folks. Maybe it's our outlook on life. Maybe it is our faith feels toxic to folks. Maybe it is our political leanings that feel toxic to people. But those are all part of it, right? Those are all part of it. And I'm not judging anybody on this. I'm talking about how do you deal with it? How do you deal with it when you encounter some toxicity in your life? And the first thing you have to do is recognize that that's what this is, that you have toxicity in your life. There's something that's robbing you of the joy. And the first thing you do is recognize that you have someone that's in your life that's stealing your joy, that's making your life a little less good, a little less than the best day that it could possibly be. And so the first thing I want to invite you to do, this is all stuff I got off of my mythinkbiglife.com, is accept the situation where it is. Recognize that this moment you're not going to change this person. And this conversation that you're going to have with them is probably not going to be the one that changes them and makes them less toxic for you. They are simply going to be who they're going to be, and it's going to take time for them to change. So you have to figure out, well, what do I need to do to prepare myself or to protect myself from the people in my life that are toxic? And I don't always want you to run away, right? Run away is a good strategy for Monty Python. Bravely run away. But it's not necessarily the best strategy for every relationship. So what I want you to do is first concentrate on all the positive relationships you have. Think about all the good people in your life, all the people that you enjoy. Think about all the people that bring you joy. Think about the people that fill you up, right? Those are ways to fill the leaks that toxic people create in your lives. And I just got to invite you to spend a lot more time with those people. The other thing you can do is in dealing with toxicity in your life, and it's going to come when it comes. You don't have a lot of control of it. But you can decide how much access to your life you allow toxic people to have. That means you don't have to go to everybody's party. That means you don't have to engage everybody in conversation. That means you don't have to really just, you don't have to give of yourself when you don't have to give of yourself. And so don't always give. What I remind myself is that hurt people often hurt people, right? Hurt people hurt people. And this person that's toxic to you, they may know that they're hurting you, but they may not be able to help it. And you're not going to be the one that's going to be able to correct them. I don't think the victim of a toxic person is often the one that's able to help them. It usually takes someone that can meet that person right where they're at, someone they respect, and someone calls them out and say, listen, what you're doing is not okay. But that's probably not going to be you. You have to surround yourself and be in healthier relationships. Relationships where the toxic people in your life are not the primary people in your life. And I know this is hard for some of us that came from really toxic families. You may have to distance yourself from your family a little bit. You may have to create what I called the family safe zone. For me, that was 500 miles between me and my biological family. That's the only way I felt safe. I needed at least 8 hours of prep time before I could see my family, because a lot of my biological family, my dad was pretty toxic. And so as I became an adult, I learned how to protect myself from it, and then eventually I learned how to engage it. So you give yourself that distance. You also recognize that your wealth, your self-worth, your self-value, all your internals that you have accomplished at this point, that toxic person doesn't have the ability to take those away from you, unless you give them to them, right? Unless you open yourself up to them, they can't take stuff from you. And so you don't let them. You simply don't. You don't put things on the table that you don't want them to damage. You don't open your heart to them because they will damage you, because you already identified them as a toxic person at this moment. Okay, so you've got the person identified. You recognize the things that they do in your life, and you've chosen to have better people in your life. What you can do is pray for them. Okay, you just offer them up in prayer, and not like God strike them down, although that sometimes is the prayer that quickly comes to mind. You can pray for them and say to God, just Father, strengthen me and soften their heart, or Father, give them eyes or ears to see and hear what they're actually saying, what they're actually doing, how they're diminishing people, how they're tearing people down. And that's usually my first go-to, because what I find is that God does engage and answer prayers, but not only does he answer prayers in the way that you wanted, but he answers prayers in the ways that he wants. And so what often happens is God makes you stronger, God makes you healthier, God makes you more equipped to deal with those situations. Let's see, I don't want you to give those toxic folks any more power in your life than you've already given them. As a matter of fact, I don't want them to live in your heart or your mind rent free. Why would you want that? Why would you want someone that's so destructive to your heart, so destructive to your mood, so destructive to your thought process to be in your mind over and over and over again? So you have to control the keys to your mind. You have to control the keys to your heart. Don't let that type of person, those type of people, dig in too deep. So right now I'm going to pop back and see if I can see comments. Maybe I'm not allowed to see comments on the YouTube stream, but I'm going to check to see if we can see it. And I'm pretty sure we don't get to see comments in this window. So let me see what happens when I go over here. I'm going to open that up, turn that on. And I have one thumbs up. I can't get to see comments. I don't know if I like this. I like seeing comments. I like being able to say good morning to everybody. Good morning, Tiffany. Good morning, Gail. Good morning, Carol. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Stephen. Good morning. I don't know who's there because I can't tell who's on, so I gotta figure out how to do this part. So again, welcome back to the learning curve as I figure this whole YouTube live streaming out. And so we've got emotional vampires, and we've got those toxic people in our lives. You've got a little bit of advice on how to deal with them. It really is kind of like a diet. You really have to decide to only take in the healthy things as opposed to the toxic things. And if they're toxic, let them go, because they'll ripen. They'll get better over time. I gotta believe that they will get better over time. They'll figure it out. And if they don't, it's their loss, because they lose you, right? They lose you as a potential friend, as a potential relationship. And so with all those things said, God's love for you is true. It's just constant, unswervingly true. God's heart is directed towards you, rescuing you, redeeming you, wanting you to be close to him and have the best possible life you possibly can have. God desires for you to be in an authentic relationship with him. Right, a real relationship, a relationship that is not based on yesterday's faith, but today's faith, and that means an everyday kind of faith, a faith that you lean into, you live into, you read scripture, you pray, and then you do the things that you believe God calls you to do. You belong to Christ, and you define yourself by what he says. Yeah, we've talked about that a lot, and you exist every day to demonstrate God's love to this broken world. Those folks that we know that are broken and toxic out there need to see you living your best and most healthy life. You need to demonstrate how to care for people, how to love people, how to be in relationship with people, without tearing them down, without inserting barbed comments, without doing a backhanded compliment where you get slapped both ways for someone to say, "Hey, your hair looks nice," right? And in that same sentence, they said you look fat and your dress is ugly. Right? That's a backhanded compliment. You don't want that. And so we're called to demonstrate that faith, demonstrate that love, demonstrate that relationship with God. And so now, as I look at the clock, it's just about time. It's almost time, guys. You got a big day in front of you. The weather's going to be good. There are going to be people outside that need to know the things that you know. There are relationships that need to be built and mended. There are stories to be told and adventures to be had. So I want to invite you to get out there. Do the best you can. Go where you can go. Do the things that you can do. Find a place that brings you joy, and take as much joy as you possibly can as you do it. Have the best day